Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise.
Welcome to the Design Dash podcast. So in this mini episode, Melissa and I are going to dive into one of the most important and often overlooked aspects of running a profitable design firm. It isn't sexy, but it is necessary, and that is time tracking and time billing. So if you go hourly, how you track your time can make or break your business. So we're going to walk you through some of the things we do, best practices that we may adhere to or not, common pitfalls, like things that trip us up, and some strategies to ensure you're capturing your value and boosting your, not only your top line, but your profit. So let's get into it. Melissa, we're in the middle of monthly time billing right now.
Yes.
We bill our time every month on the 10th of the month, like clockwork. So our team knows what to expect and our clients know what to expect. It's not always easy, but why does this matter? Like, why does sticking to this timeline matter?
I mean, for me, I think the number one is for clients. So they know exactly when they're going to receive a bill, exactly when it's going to be due. And I just think if anything's going to be consistent, it should be your invoicing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not fun though. Like designers hate
Oh,
this stuff.
no, it's not fun.
So,
I
so
just did it
tell
all morning
me,
this morning. It was not fun.
like, why in the world do we do this? Like, I've got to think to myself when I'm tracking my time, which I hate doing, why am I doing this?
Well, we bill hourly, so we have to know how much time you're tracking so we can bill for it. I
Yeah.
guess if you were going fixed, you wouldn't necessarily have to. But I also like seeing how much time we're spending on each project. It helps us in a couple of different ways. It helps us understand how much time it takes to do something. So then when we are proposing for another client in the future, we have a pretty good idea of what that proposal should be because, oh, we've done that kind of work before. I can go back in the history and see how long that actually took. Um, I think another reason for that as well is we can see if we're being efficient. Like we can take a look at a previous project and say, hey, this only took us 16 hours. Why is it taking us 32 hours this time around? And a lot of times it's not our fault. You know, there's issues with the build. The client might be indecisive. You know, there's a lot of other issues. But again, that goes back to the first one is it helps us understand how much that future project needs to be budgeted. It just helps proposals make that easier.
Yeah. And as much as I loathe time tracking and time billing, I love it too. And my biggest the reason I love it is because I never have to say no to a client request
Yeah.
ever. So like you just said, some projects may be, we build 100 hours, projects we build 300 hours, and they can look very similar in scope, but they're not. I mean, it may start that way. It may be, 5,000 square foot house in the same neighborhood with a very similar scope, but the client needs are very different.
Absolutely.
And so I think with hourly billing, I never have to say like, no, that's not in your contract.
Yeah.
No, that's not the scope you told me. I can't do that. I never have to say that. We can always just say yes.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's a really big selling point, I think, for clients, even though it may be nerve wracking that we bill hourly and it's not a fixed sum. I think it's also kind of liberating because they can ask us to do anything they need, really. And I just say yes. With some guardrails, obviously, we do estimate the project. So we say, this furnishings only project in that's 5,000 square feet is going to be X amount of dollars to X amount of dollars in design fee
Mhm.
based on our typical past projects. Of course, that scope may grow or it may shrink, and that will affect the billing. But we
Yeah.
keep you on track and keep you notified. So I
Yeah.
think just from a selling standpoint and from a client satisfaction standpoint, I really love time tracking. um, So I think like that's our why. That's my why. Your why is that we're getting paid monthly
Yeah, this
and
is
consistently,
yep.
right? Like we're not just getting a big chunk of money up front and then waiting, hoping that the milestones for the build or whatever stay on track so that we get paid on our
Right,
fix
because
up.
they won't ever.
No. And that doesn't matter to us because we are monthly. It's whatever the work we've done that month prior, it gets billed. So we are getting paid every month on the time that we're actually spending on the project.
Yeah.
So I think from a monthly revenue standpoint, that's really amazing.
Hmm.
Um, so those are some whys. The how is a little more painful. So walk us through, Melissa, like how, like what are the actual mechanics for time billing?
So we use QuickBooks. I mean, I think if you're going to do any time billing and any invoicing, you're going to need some sort of accounting software. And a lot of people will use Studio Designer, or they'll use
Mhm.
their procurement software, which also has something built in. But we really like QuickBooks because we really love that data and I really like that invoicing. So, in an ideal world, I think every designer would bill their time in real time or at least at the end of every day. So you're going to open up your app, whether you have it on your phone or you have it on your laptop, and then you're going to log hours to that particular client. You're going to say what you did, how long you did it for, and for what client it was for. And then zoop, it gets sent on over to a time billing report that then every month we take a look at on the accounting side, and we will put together an invoice using those logged entries and then send that out to the client.
So for a small team or a solopreneur, does QuickBooks still make sense? And how easy is it for them to run their own reports and get this out to clients?
I mean, I think QuickBooks is the easiest to use, if I'm being honest. And whether you're, we have part-time people on the team who use QuickBooks to bill us. So
Well,
I think that it's really easy to use if you are just one person or if you're, a team of 50 people, QuickBooks is the way to go. A lot of it is because the reporting is really easy. It's really easy to figure out, even if you don't have an accounting background, you've never looked at a profit and loss report ever before. Uh, QuickBooks makes that really easy to pull for you.
and we are not being paid by QuickBooks, just for the
No,
record.
believe me, I have a lot of bad things to say about QuickBooks also, if you wanna go down that road.
Especially when we're in the middle of time billing and like some random bug is screwing us up.
It's
But
making yes, we can talk about that later if you want to,
yeah,
but
okay.
it's an online the thing is, we use QuickBooks Online. You can use QuickBooks Desktop. I would not recommend that for smaller teams or for solopreneurs because it's expensive and it's more robust than what you would ever need. It's like you were paying for this whole suite of services when you really only need 10% of it.
So if you're not using QuickBooks already, how easy is it to set this system up so that you can start tracking your time pretty quickly?
Oh, really easy. And I would
Okay.
imagine that it's like that with any other time billing software. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, any good ones, it should be really quick to set up.
And we've adjusted the way we bill over time, as we've found like what works and what doesn't. If we need more robust reporting or less information that goes to a client, we've adjusted it over time. So even if you just set it up now in a very simple way, you can actually add to it or take away from it as you figure out what works and doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The
And so,
only caveat about that is if you are going to change the way that you input time, then you're going to make all of that previous data invalid because yeah,
oh,
so I mean if you're changing the data
that
inputs,
kind of sucks.
then that previous data isn't going to
So
make
get it right the first time is what you're saying?
you can always change it, but I would advise against changing it all the time.
Okay. 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 Like once a year.
I mean, if I would never change it if I didn't have to.
Okay, we're set it up the right way the first time. And I would say talk to your CPA too, right? Because they need
Yeah,
this information.
absolutely. Whoever is handling your general ledger, you need to
Your
make sure that that
bookkeeper.
matches up. Your bookkeeper,
Yep.
your CPA. We like to track our budget versus actual. So we're setting up our budget the October, prior to the next year. And I create that budget against our general ledger, which makes it really easy to then upload into QuickBooks. It's the same, again, the same data in, same data out. And so since that matches, we're able to track month to month, quarter to quarter, year over year. What did we think we were going to do for January versus what we actually did? And I find that to be really useful. And again, any, not just QuickBooks, but any time tracking and accounting software should be able to do that for you.
And so, like, back to the fact that we get paid every month, which is a
Mhm.
really nice thing about billing hourly and tracking your time. We get paid every single month. We bill to the quarter hour. So every, a task that takes 15 minutes, we're billing for that. So since we're billing monthly, we're looking at the work we did for that prior month, like really close to the time that we actually did it. So
Yeah.
it's easier for us to remember, like, okay, this is what we did. Yes, that's valid. Yes, I feel really good about billing for that because I actually did the work and the
Hmm.
client probably saw the fruits of that labor. So they are going to feel pretty good about paying it.
Yeah.
What I love about billing through software like QuickBooks or Studio Designer or whatever other one you may use is that you can get paid through the platform really quickly. So
Yeah.
not only are you billing every month, you're getting paid pretty quickly. A lot of our clients will pay as soon as they get that invoice in their email. So we get paid so much faster than we used to when we didn't do it through a software. Um, we get paid more, I think. The pitfall here is that you're paying fees to
That's
the
true.
platform.
Yes. Each time that a transaction's made.
What do those fees look like? Like, let's say I'm billing 5 grand a month. Am I paying 500 in fees? Is it 10%? Like, what is it?
I mean, it depends. So every single transaction is going to be like a 3% surcharge, and that's how QuickBooks gets paid or Intuit,
Okay.
really.
Okay. So just know that you are going to be paying a fee, but I am okay with that. And those fees can be big depending on how much you're billing every month. But I'm okay with it because we get paid faster. We get our cash in the bank and we have cash flow to support our business. So
Yeah, absolutely.
there's some give and take there. Um, so we've talked about a couple tools, and you talked about real time tracking, which is ideal. Probably
Yes, of
not going to
course.
happen. End of the day tracking also could work really well.
Yeah.
You're just tracking daily. Realistically, I think everyone does it differently. I would track once a week. I look at my calendar. I'm like, what was I doing? And I
Yeah.
add that.
Yeah.
The bad thing about that is that you're going to miss time that you spent.
Mhm.
You're going to actually charge less than you would if you were tracking in real time or daily. But for me, I'm tracking at the end of the week and I'm doing it based on my calendar and memory, which probably sucks. The team, we really encourage them to do it daily or in real time, and they're pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk about categorizing and labeling your time entries.
Mhm.
What's the best way I mean, let's talk about the way we do it, but we're structured really specifically by phase and
In our
team
case,
member and activity.
we're really specific. I would ideally not be that specific, but again, I'm not a designer, so
Let's say you're a small team or a solopreneur. What would the ideal way be like to set up how you're billing your time? What would that invoice look like at the end of the month?
yeah, I mean, I would want it to be as simple as possible. And you can do it a variety of different ways. And I've done it a variety of different ways whenever I've had to bill my own time hourly. But it's typically like you have like we bill by phase or you can bill by service, like maybe you're just saying that this was sourcing or this was design, this was a meeting. And then in QuickBooks, for example, it'll give you a description. And you can say, hey, this was the meeting that we had on 5/2. It was a login and it was 2 hours. I like to give them a little bit more detail that way as opposed to just going by phase, which I could see by phase, like it makes it a little bit more consistent. But I think at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that it's something that your client can understand. Like, I wouldn't want to give them an invoice of just like, oh, we did schematic here, there, and the other. It's like, no, these guys aren't designers. Like, they need to know what was actually accomplished during that month. So that's why I think using the description field and making each invoice bespoke, because then if you do have a client, which I bet 9 times out of 10, they don't do this. But if they ever want to go back and look through their invoices, they can know exactly month to month what was completed in their project.
Yeah, and I think that's when we get the least pushback from clients on what we're doing.
Yeah,
Is
when they
when
have
we're like, what did we accomplish? And by phase, you're right. They don't necessarily, a client doesn't necessarily know what's included in the schematic phase
Mhm.
or the design development phase. That means very little to them. But if it's like design production, I worked on closet elevations, handed them off to the builder. Like that's
They're just like,
pretty
"Oh,
specific.
I know
Yeah.
what
Like,
it is."
okay, those are going to get built. Like I get that.
Mhm.
Um, Usually instead of meeting, and this is just semantics, but we've played with this over time. Instead of the word meeting, we use collaboration. I think, I don't know, it just makes people feel better. Like you're collaborating with the client, you're collaborating with the builder, you're corresponding with the client. You're not sending an email, you're not calling, you're corresponding because
Mhm.
you are doing design work and including that information that moves the project forward, ideally, if
Yeah.
you're billing for it. It's not just like you're shooting an email off for the hell of it. You're actually getting something done. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah, of
like
course.
words do matter. So when you're setting up your time billing descriptions or categories, just think about that. What don't you include in billable?
What do you mean, like activities or
Yeah, activities. What are we not billing for?
if it's really intense troubleshooting for something that we messed up or
Okay.
something that we forgot, then we don't bill for that kind of backtracking. But for the most part, like you said before, like if we're doing that work, we have there's value in the work that we're doing. So I think that we should bill for it. The only times that we don't, I would say, are mistakes. Like
Yep.
mistakes are just like, oof, okay, I don't feel like the client should really pay for that.
Yeah,
Now, if we're going
absolutely.
back to reselect something because the client wants us to reselect something, yes, that could be considered troubleshooting, but that's troubleshooting I'd bill for.
Yes, and even if something becomes unavailable or discontinued, um, because there's lag time between design and ordering.
Yeah,
And
of
we are
course.
not in control of things that become discontinued. So if we have to reselect because of that, we do bill for that time.
Yeah,
It's not the fault of the homeowner unless they've just dragged their feet on ordering.
yeah, that can
But it's
happen.
also not the fault of the designer and it's for the benefit of the project. So
Absolutely.
we do bill for that time. And it's a small amount of time anyway, but okay, so let's talk about commute. We did talk about this a little bit, but being transparent with clients in your hourly billing and the language you're using in your time tracking. How transparent are we?
Um, I mean, I guess it's very subjective because transparent would be down to the minute, right? It could be down to the
Well,
minute
that
of
would be
exactly what we
terrible. I can't
did,
imagine a worse
or
hell
it
than
can
down
just
to the
be
minute
by
maybe.
phase. So I would say, I mean, we really just tell them this is the phase in which we're working, and this is how much time we spent on that. Now, some clients they're totally fine with that. I mean, the majority of clients are just like, I'm communicating with you all the time. I
Right.
know what
They
you
know
guys
what we're doing. They see what we're working on.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and pay this invoice. Now, there are going to be others who they need to see every single line item. And when it comes down to that, we provide something additional. So on the invoice, I try to keep the invoices as simple as possible. It's almost a don't poke the bear sort of situation when it comes to that transparency. Like if they're working with the designers every month, then the invoice is tertiary. Like it is not that important, right? Um, so, I don't know, I guess it depends, but if a client really just like, "I need some extra transparency," then we'll pull the actual time billing report. We'll share with them extra details of what went on, and I feel like sometimes that just happens when something is dragging out, like, maybe
Yeah.
they're in bid negotiations and they're just like, "Whoa, nothing's even
Yeah.
happening with my house right now, why am I getting billed?" And then we have to say, "Well, we're"
All of this is happening behind the scenes.
right.
Yeah.
We're coordinating with 4 different builders right now. Like, let me show you exactly what had happened. And then they start to see the value.
Mhm. I think also just some clients, not all, but some, and I think it's an important thing to offer. They like touch points. Just overarchingly, where are we in the process? By phase. And so we have like and actually this is in the community. You can grab it there if you're in the community. It's a phase map. And it's how we structure our entire design process by phase. And so like we were saying, bill, we track our time by phase. So it's aligning with this map
Mhm.
that you can get in the community.
Yeah.
So we will sit down with this map with our client and say, and happens at the beginning of the project, and we say, okay, this is the overall project arc. We're tracking to this with your project. So the biggest time billing months or phases are X, Y, and Z. So design development, construction documentation, etc. And so they know they're going to get big chunks of time billing in those months and they're prepared for it. And we're communicating that. Some clients need a midpoint sit down to review where we are. And I actually love doing this for the team and for the homeowner, because we can say, like, okay, look at all these things we've already accomplished. We've delivered all of these project milestones and documents. This is what's left. And so that way they know on this map, we are here and we're going here. And I think that just gives them a lot of peace of mind. And it also gives the team direction.
Yeah, it's
Um,
setting an expectation that then we're gonna meet
Mhm.
need.
Yeah. So I think if you don't already have a project map, it's super helpful. You can grab ours or create your own. But I find that clients like that visual representation of where we are and aligning it with time billing. So just a little tidbit. And that is, I think that's I'm looking at my little list of things we want to cover here. Profitability with time billing.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that just really quick and then we can wrap it up. But
Yeah.
so what are our benchmarks? What does it mean for us to be billing the right amount of time? What does that profitability target look like?
And it's been dynamic, but we like to hit about it's just such a specific number. 52% profitability for time billing, which that again, that's different from our profit percentage and profit margins when it comes to furniture. It's a whole other different
How
discussion.
do you calculate that percentage?
I have a calculator that we've created in Excel. I have to take a look at the designer salary, which is basically a cost of goods sold for us since we're selling their time. And then the profitability would be what we charged in revenue, and what we received in revenue from the client from that invoice. And then we're also taking a look at what the team cost, I guess I should say. So that's where the salary comes into play.
And just note that 52% is gross profit.
Mhm.
So that's not net. Business owner Laura, is not putting 52% of every hour billed into her pocket. I'm not taking home half. And I don't know why I'm talking about myself in the damn third person. However, I am not pocketing half of what we're charging. That's gross. And so then we have all of our overhead, which are our fixed expenses.
Mhm.
Um, to contend with, which is always fun. That's a whole other episode. But I do think that, like, if we're shooting for 52%, and I know that's a very specific number,
Yeah.
but I think valuable to know, because that way it's not just a shot in the dark. Like, what in the world should I be making?
Well, and
52.
that's a great number to and again, it's arbitrary, right? It's because we were doing 50 before and now we're like, let's do 52. It's like we want to do a little bit better. But we
It's not
always
totally arbitrary. We know what our operating costs are. We know what we're paying
of
people. Like,
course.
yeah, it's a target.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this helps us also determine, and this is a different conversation. What are we going to pay in terms of salary per role for these designers? Which I know that's a question that we get a lot in the community is how do I know if I can really afford this person? Well, I mean, the way that we do it is very consistent across the board. We determine how much profit we want to make for that particular person. We know how many hours they can work per week. We know how much they're going to cost per hour. And from there, it's a very simple calculation of, this is how much you cost. This is how much revenue we can generate from you. Here's the net profit out of that divided by how much in income we generated from you, and boom.
Holy moly. Okay, that's going to be another episode. And in that episode, look for it, listen for it, because we will also talk about rates, billing rates, because I
Yes.
think that's a really good lead in, even though it's regionally determined and, your client, the market demand determines it as well. I think that's a really good topic. So listen for a future episode on all of that.
Yeah, but that's the thing, like, time tracking isn't just tracking your time. It's how we calculate profitability, it's how we calculate efficiency, it's just one of those things that affects so many other avenues of the business that
It really does. But I really believe that hourly billing is the way to bill for your services hourly. Fixed sum has never worked for me in 18 years of business, 18 years plus. Percentage on project has not worked for me. And we've tried it. We have tried it
Yeah.
all. So
And it
I'm just
seems so appealing sometimes too. I'm just like, oh,
I know it
how
sounds
easy does that
easy.
seem?
It does. And it is easy. So if you're going for easy, awesome. If you're going for profitability, hourly billing and tracking your time is where it's at. And I will die on that hill. So yeah, let's wrap it up there. Anything to add?
No, I mean, I think that this is a good segue into another conversation about profit first. I think we've all read that book.
I'm making a note right here. We're going to talk about this.
Yeah,
Profit
I think we should
first.
have that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you had a couple of good takeaways here and that you are considering, if you're not already doing it, hourly time billing. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.